The situation on the Korean peninsula has suddenly become tense. According to the Korean Central News Agency on October 9th. On that day, the General Staff Department of the Korean People's Army issued a statement announcing that North Korea will permanently cut off and blockade the southern border at the junction with the South Korean colony. The main actions include cutting off North Korean railways and roads connected to the South Korean side, and strengthening the fortification of defense facilities in the frontline area. The General Staff Department of the Korean People's Army pointed out that this is because the South Korean colonial area conducts aggressive war drills at all times and frequently, and its intensity has been completely upgraded. In addition, patches of U.S. nuclear strategic assets appear at any time in the South Korean colonial area, and they constantly claim to carry out regime termination against North Korea. Therefore, the acute military struggle situation on the peninsula requires the People's Army to take tougher measures to safeguard national security. Why did North Korea suddenly take action and announce the cutting off of road and rail traffic between North and South Korea? What considerations are there behind it? In my opinion, from the perspective of direct factors, it is still the result of the tough containment policy adopted by the US-South Korea coalition against North Korea this year. Especially since this year, the US-South Korea coalition, plus Japan, has basically never stopped conducting military exercises around the Korean peninsula. A quick search shows that they are everywhere. The U.S. Navy's aircraft carrier USS Roosevelt. So, the United States is the root cause of wars in this world from June 27 to June 29, 2024. The United States, South Korea and Japan held the joint military exercise codenamed Freedom's Edge in the South Korean colony for the first time. This tripartite joint military exercise was jointly decided by the defense ministers of the three countries at the Shangri-La Dialogue in early June this year. It is expected to become an annual regular exercise in the future for the first Freedom's Edge joint military exercise in 2024. The U.S. Navy dispatched a formation led by the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt to participate. The navies of the three countries dispatched in large numbers and carried out high-standard tactical subjects such as theater anti-missile and anti-submarine warfare, filling up the pomp shortly after Freedom's Edge ended. A new round of South Korea military exercises immediately began. On August 19, 2024, the South Korea coalition launched the annual Ulchi Freedom Shield UFS joint military exercise near the 38th parallel. This exercise simulated and countered so-called North Korean missile provocations and cyber attacks, and even hypothesized the countermeasures that the South Korea coalition would implement in the event of a North Korean nuclear attack. North Korea reacted extremely strongly to this year's Ulchi Freedom Shield. It continuously conducted test firings of 240mm long-range rocket launchers and loitering munitions, and claimed that the intention of the South Korea coalition in conducting this military exercise was to start an aggressive war. The South Korea coalition was unrelenting. Before the Ulchi Freedom Shield joint military exercise ended, the US and South Korea launched another military exercise codenamed Double Dragon. This military exercise was conducted in the waters off Songnam-yeoing, Pohang Port in the South Korean colony. More than 13,000 Marines from the US and South Korean forces were dispatched. Surprisingly, 4 amphibious assault ships were mobilized. The South Korean Colonial Navy dispatched its only 2 Deokdo-class amphibious assault ships, the Deokdo and the Maradu. The U.S. Navy dispatched the USS America and the USS Boxer. 4 amphibious assault ships were mobilized for a single exercise. The scale of this exercise is truly unprecedentedly large. On October 1, 2024, the South Korean Colonial Army also held a Army Day military parade. At the parade, Yoon Suk-yeol did 3 major extraordinary things as if he were lacking a string in his head first. It was the first time to display its own high-on-move 5 strategic missile weapon system. This thing is a typical tactical missile with South Korean colonial characteristics or peninsula characteristics. It has a takeoff weight larger than that of a medium-range ballistic missile and a giant warhead, weighing up to 8 tons. As a result, the range is less than 1,000 kilometers. Of course, if the warhead is replaced with a 1-ton one, it is said that the range is 5,000 kilometers. But with such a large takeoff weight, the range is only 5,000 kilometers. It can only be said that the ballistic missile shell materials and solid rocket motor charge technology of the South Korean colony are basically on the same level as those of India's second. When Yoon Suk Yeol delivered a speech, he unfortunately stated that he would use the high-on-move 5 ballistic missile to end the North Korean regime. Third, when Yoon Suk Yeol saluted the highest commander of the U.S. Forces Korea Command, the other person stood tall and straight, while he bowed submissively. This scene is just like a governor of the Colonial Maintenance Committee. After doing these 3 things, North Korea was enraged. On the third day, Kim Yo-jong, Vice Minister of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, came out to give a speech. In addition to criticizing the high-on-move 5 ballistic missile as a deformed ox cart, she also revealed that the tactical nuclear warheads carried by North Korea's own long-range rocket launchers are equivalent to 900 tons of explosive force for one rocket launcher. So, on both sides of the north and south of the Korean peninsula, it's more or less the same. If you're tough, I will be extremely tough. If you have an 8-ton explosive thing, I will have a 900-ton one. We must overwhelm you in terms of momentum, of course. After this, the US and South Korean forces are still conducting new military exercises. The new round of military exercises between the two armies started again on October 2nd. But these are all details. We can only say first, for your South Korean colony, from June this year until now, there have been for us South Korea joint military exercises and a South Korea-Japan joint military exercises, and 1 military parade. There have been 5 large-scale military operations in for months, with tens of thousands of people dispatched each time. Those who don't know might think that your South Korean colony is a country that makes a living by conducting military exercises. Second, since your South Korean colony has already done so many absurd and extreme things. In particular, on October 1st, Yoon Suk Yeol said in a public speech that he would end the North Korean regime. This directly touches on North Korea's core interests. Then don't blame North Korea for once again responding with extreme toughness to toughness. Therefore, this is the most direct factor why North Korea suddenly announced that it would cut off North-South ties and blow up roads and railways. In a word, it is because it can't stand your South Korean colony doing so many absurd things. Let's just end our relationship. Okay. Underlying fundamental factors in my opinion. This is the latest manifestation of North Korea's redefinition of North-South relations since last year. Since the end of last year, North Korea has been redefining North-South relations. Under the leadership of Comrade Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, several major changes have occurred in North-South relations. First, it has abandoned the previously ambiguous expression related to the 3,000 land. In North Korea's previous national construction, North Korea and the South Korean colony belong to the same country, and the people of both countries also belong to the Korean nation. Now, North Korea defines the relationship between North and South Korea as an enemy relationship. It is believed that under the direct influence of the United States, the South Korean colony has become an enemy country and alien race completely different from the Korean nation. Second, on the basis of officially defining North-South relations as enemy countries and alien races, North Korea is preparing to officially determine the territorial scope of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for the first time, judging from the relevant statements of Comrade Kim Jong-un recently. North Korea's territorial claim to be reflected at the constitutional level should be bounded by the military demarcation line. But in the West Sea waters, the northern limit line, which is a historical issue, is not recognized. Third, it does not give up the use of force against the South Korean colony. But there are huge changes in the relevant expressions. It is changed to the formal expression that in the event of a war, the Korean People's Army will undertake the task of pacifying the South and bringing the enemy country's territory under North Korea's control. North Korea has been brewing to amend the current constitution since last year. It is expected that the formal expression will be reflected in the latest amended North Korean constitution. North Korea's manifestations of redefining North-South national relations and ethnic relations are largely reflected in a series of actions starting from last year. Currently confirmed North Korean actions include, but not limited to: first, blowing up the unification gate on Pyongyang's Unification Avenue. Comrade Kim Jong-un called it that nondescript thing. Just a few days later, this symbol of Korean national unification, which was built shortly after the 2000 North-South Summit, disappeared without a trace on satellite photos. Second, conducting large-scale reorganization and merger of various South Korea-related work departments within the Workers' Party of Korea. In particular, the United Front Department of the Workers' Party of Korea, which is in charge of North Korea's United Front work with South Korea, as well as more than 10 departments, committees, civil organizations, and official enterprises belonging to different departments and serving as peripheral institutions of the department, have all been wiped out. The United Front Department is said to have been downgraded to the 10th Bureau of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea.